The following outlines the reading instruction unit that follows. First and foremost, and this part may sound obvious, but it pays to follow a process or procedure. You'll have about 9 minutes to read each passage and answer all the associated questions. So that should give you about 2 to 3 minutes to read each passage. I would suggest reading through it once, not just glancing, but reading with some focus and purpose, and not reading it multiple times. As you go along, you should be circling or highlighting key words or key parts of the passage. Once you're finished, try to answer the questions without returning to the passage. It's best if you know the answer you're looking for before you actually look at the multiple choice answers. It might help you avoid being caught or tricked by a deceptive answer, because many of the answers will be phrased to sound like they're legitimate answers, but they're not. Identify the question types and identify and eliminate incorrect answers. The instruction unit will go into more detail on exactly how that's done and help you avoid those deceptive answers. Lastly, if you have to, return to the passage. Use your highlights to follow as a guide and focus in on the information you need to solve the question. If any question is too hard, you don't understand, you cannot eliminate answers and make an educated guess, don't get hung up on any one question. That's true in general for the test. It pays to take a guess and move on to questions you might be able to answer more easily. At the end of the day, settle on a process that's right for you. That can vary from student to student. Many will recommend glancing at the answers before reading the passage. I've had mixed results with that. It works sometimes, it doesn't. It takes a little extra time. It might give you a hint as to what to look for in the passage. If it helps, great. If not, don't worry. Settle on the process that ultimately is best for you. There are 3 basic question types in the reading section. The first will almost always be a main idea question. It'll be questions like, which of the following best states what this passage is about? Or, what is the best title for this passage? The follow-on questions will ask you about facts or details in the passage, or ask you to draw conclusions from information in the passage, that is, infer what is the right answer. The factual or detail questions will be phrased something like the following. According to the passage, which of the following is true? Or, which of the following is not true according to the passage? Inference questions will sound something along the lines of, what is the meaning of the following phrase? Or what is suggested by that section of the passage? Or what is the author's stated purpose? Equally as important is understanding the typical incorrect answers provided. The multiple choice answers will often include repeating types of answers that are red flags for being incorrect answers, and it pays to understand that to help answer the questions properly. For example, they can be too broad, too narrow. The answers could be false or mix up the facts and information. The answer could be exaggerated claims. The answers could simply not be in the passage, or on inference questions, be a reach, not drawn from information based on the passage. Or the answers could simply be not relevant or not an example that supports the question being asked. Too broad, too narrow. Quick example would be if the passage were about dog training, an answer about pet training in general would be too broad. An answer about German Shepherd training would be too narrow or too specific. False kind of speaks for itself. It is a statement that contradicts the information provided in the passage. Answers could be false not simply because they contradict the passage, but they might mix up information in the passage. For example, there might be 2 ideas or concepts presented in the passage. Supporting evidence for concept A is mixed and presented as though it were the supporting evidence for the idea or concept B. Or it might be they try to link one part of the passage to another part of the passage that really isn't linked. Or the order of the information may not be proper. What happens first and then second might be mixed up with what happens second and first. You will see these types of answers over and over throughout the exam, and they can be trickier if you don't know what to look for. The next type of typical incorrect answer is an exaggerated claim. This is my dog Santi. Snow days are great, but are they the best, Santi? That's a bit extreme. That would be an example of an exaggeration. The next type of answer that is a typical red flag is information that's not in the passage, or that might be a reach. That is, it's a conclusion that's not based on information in the passage. Might seem reasonable, might seem compelling, but it is not coming from the passage. Other typical examples are answers that are not relevant or not an example that supports the question. For example, the Rangers lost the Stanley Cup is not a good example supporting the statement the New York Rangers had a fantastic season. Knowing your typical question types and understanding the red flags or types of incorrect answers that are likely to appear as multiple choice options will really help you get better at this part of the exam. A few tips or hints will be helpful along the way. Number 1, correct answers are almost never presented word for word or verbatim the same way they are in the passage. They're almost always rephrased. So translating between the answer choice and the passage is very useful, and you should practice being able to do that. Secondly, and very importantly, do not rely on your knowledge of a topic outside the passage. The correct answers must be in the passage for a fact or detail question, or they must be derived directly from information in the passage in the case of an inference question. For example, you know there's a lot of traffic in New York City. If that's not mentioned in the passage, you cannot use that knowledge to solve a question from a passage about driving in New York City. Also, just because an answer is true does not mean it's the best answer. It could be presented in the passage, it could be true, but the answer might be part of a supporting sentence in the passage that is a part of the main idea that the question is asking about. So it could be a good answer, a true answer in the passage, just not the best answer. Be aware, the correct answer can often be in more places than one in the passage. You might have to look at different parts of the passage to pull together or derive the correct answer. Lastly, pay very close attention to the wording. This can't be understated. It's a great way, well, not so great from your perspective, but from the test maker's perspective, it's a great way to catch students not paying attention. For example, if you have a question about what are the similarities between A and B, and the multiple choice answer refers to the differences between A and B, that can't be an answer indicating or supporting the similarities. So just be careful and pay close attention to the wording in the question. That will help you in the long run. I hope this summary helps, and a great deal more information and details will be provided in the following instruction unit, and good luck.